Hi everybody, my name is Heather and I'm the Artistic Director here at Downstage Center Productions. Thank you for your patience with us tonight. This is our first presentation of DCP Live, and as is always true with live performance, sometimes, we get into technical difficulties, but we're so thrilled to be here with you. Welcome to the first ever Hoogah-Troupe presentation of Downstage Center Live. This is a little bit of something I dreamed up when we first started the company, because we started on Zoom, and so I figured we would be here at some point, and I'm so thrilled to be here with you now. We're very grateful to our friends at Bobby P. Media for helping us make this possible. I'm very, very proud to introduce you to my Hoogah-Troupe here at Downstage Center and Acting 101 with HeatherK. This is my performance troupe. They have worked hard to get here. Tonight we will be presenting you with a staged reading of Dickens' classic tale, A Christmas Carol. This is an adapted version. It's short and sweet and funny, and they have been rehearsing for a few days now to get this ready for you. If you would like to support arts education in your community, please go to www.downstagecenter.org. You can choose to drop a few pennies in our bucket. That helps us keep being able to do things like this. And it also helps us give scholarships to students, because we believe in building a more equitable stage here in Vancouver. And we want to be able to give as many kids this opportunity as possible. So if you want to support productions, if you want to support the scholarship fund, please go over to that website and make a small donation. Every little bit helps. We have a lovely actor who could not be with us here tonight. Her name is Addie. She's a member of our troupe. She's very, very sick. And Addie, we just want you to know we miss you, and we love you, and we want you to get better soon. Troupe? We love you, Addie. All right, and with that, I present to you my Hoogah-Troupe from Downstage Center Productions. This is A Christmas Carol. Once upon a time, upon a Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle.
It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew.
Bah! Humbug! Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I am sure?
I do! Out upon Merry Christmas! If I had my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding, he should!
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it, but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do you, much good it has ever done you.
I have always thought of Christmas time as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
Good afternoon.
I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Good afternoon.
His nephew left the room without an angry word, but the clerk, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let two other people in.
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at the present time. A few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink, in means of warmth. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the prisons and the workhouses. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, they had better do it.
The hour of shutting up the counting house had arrived.
Scrooge took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern and went home to bed.
Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door of this house, except that it was very large, and yet Scrooge, having his key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, not a knocker, but Marley's face.
Marley's face, with a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar.
As Scrooge looked at this, it was a knocker again. He said,
Pooh, pooh,
and closed the door with a bang. The sound resounded through the house like thunder.
Bang, bang, bang.
Every room above and every cask in the wine merchant's cellars below
Bang, bang, bang.
appeared to have a separate peal of echoes
Bang, bang, bang.
of its own. Scrooge was not a man to be frightened by echoes. He fastened the door and walked across the hall and up the stairs.
Up Scrooge went, not caring a button for its being very dark. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it.
Quite satisfied, he closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the very low fire to take his gruel.
As he threw his head back in the chair, his glance happened upon a bell, a disused bell, that hung in the room. It was with great astonishment, and with a strange dread, that, as he looked, he saw this bell begin to swing.
Ding, ding, ding.
Soon it rang out loudly,
Ding, ding, ding.
and so did every bell in the house.
This was succeeded by a clanking noise
Clank,
deep down below,
clank,
as if some person were dragging a heavy chain
clank.
over the casks in the wine merchant's cellar.
Then he heard the noise much louder,
Clank,
on the floors below,
clank,
then coming up the stairs,
clank,
then coming straight towards his door.
clank,
It came on through the heavy door,
clank.
and a specter passed into the room before his eyes, and upon its coming in, the dying flame leaped up as though it cried,
I know him! Marley's ghost!
What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who are you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
The ghost sat down on the opposite side of the fireplace as if he were quite used to it.
You don't believe me.
I don't.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you, whatever you are.
the spirit raised a frightful cry.
Mercy, dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me? Why do spirits walk the earth, and why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk among his fellow men and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me. In life, my spirit never roved beyond our money-changing hole, and weary journeys lie before me.
Scrooge was very much dismayed to hear the specter going on at this rate, and began to quake exceedingly.
I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. You will be haunted by 3 spirits. Expect the first tomorrow night, when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second on the next night, at the same hour. The third upon the next night, when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more.
Scrooge tried to say humbug,
Ha, 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 ha.
but stopped at the first syllable, and being from the emotion he had undergone, or the fatigues of the day, or his glimpse of the invisible world, or the conversation of the ghost, or the lateness of the hour, he went straight to bed without undressing, fell asleep on the instant. Me, 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 me.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly. Fa la 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 la. Don we now our gay apparel. Fa la 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 la. Stroll the ancient Yuletide carol. Fa la 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 la.
When Scrooge awoke, the church clock tolled a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy 1.
Light flashed up in the room upon the instant. The curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a strange figure, like a child.
Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy thoroughfares of a city. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here, too, it was Christmas time. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it.
Know it? I apprenticed here.
They went in, at sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig, sitting behind such a high desk that if he had been 2 inches taller, he must have knocked his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement.
Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig, alive again.
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer. A living and moving picture of Scrooge's former self, a young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice. Yo-ho, my boys, said Fezziwig. No more work tonight. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up before a man can say Jack Robinson. Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here.
Clear away? There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away or couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. The warehouse was as snug and as warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night.
In came a fiddler with a music book and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it. Turned like 50 stomach aches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In they all came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. In they all went, 20 couple at once, hands half round back, and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round. Old top couple always turning up in the wrong place.
When the clock struck 11, this ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig, shaking hands with every person as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas.
A small matter, said the ghost, to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. He has spent but a few pounds of your money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that, spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks, in things impossible to add and count them up. What then? The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. Spirit, remove me from this place. Haunt me no longer.
As he struggled with the spirit, he was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and further, of being in his own bedroom. He had barely time to reel to bed before he sank into a very heavy sleep.
Scrooge awoke in his bedroom.
The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove. The leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflected back the light, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney. Heaped upon the floor, to form a kind of throne, were turkeys, geese, great joints of meat, pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, cherry-cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, great bowls of punch, and immense 12th cakes. Upon this couch there sat a giant glorious to see, who wore a glowing torch.
Come in, and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the like of me before. Come on, touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told and held it fast. The room and its contents all vanished instantly, and they stood in the city streets upon a snowy Christmas morning. Scrooge and the ghost passed on, invisible, straight to Scrooge's clerks, and on the threshold of the door the spirit smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinklings of his torch. Then up rose Miss Cratchit.
What has ever gotten your precious father then, and your brother, Tiny Tim?
No, that's Father coming now. Cried the two young Cratchits, who were everywhere at once.
In came Bob, the father, his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed, to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas, for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
And how did little Tim behave?
As good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much, and thinks the strangest things you've ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in the church, because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to them to remember, upon Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
Master Peter and the two young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, with which they soon returned, in high procession.
Mrs. Cratchit made the gravy, ready beforehand in the little saucepan, hissing hot. Master Peter mashed the potatoes with incredible vigor. Miss Belinda sweetened up the applesauce. Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in a tiny corner at the table. The two young Cratchits set chairs for everybody, not forgetting themselves, and crammed spoons into their mouths, lest they should shriek for goose before their turn came to be helped. At last the dishes were set on, and the grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause, as Mrs. Cratchit, looking slowly along the curving knife, prepared to plunge it in the beast. But when she did, and the long expected "Kush" of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all around the board. And even Tiny Tim, excited by the two young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of his knife, and feebly cried,
Huzzah! But now, the plates being changed by Miss Belinda, Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone to take the pudding up and bring it in.
Mrs. Cratchit entered, smiling proudly with the pudding, like a speckled cannonball, so hard and firm, blazing in half of a quarter of ignited brandy and bedlight with Christmas holly stuck into the top.
Oh, a wonderful pudding.
At last the dinner was all done, the cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. Then all the Cratchit family drew around the hearth, while the chestnuts on the fire sputtered and crackled noisily. They were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with time. And when they faded, and looked happier yet in the bright sprinklings of the spirit's torch at the parting, Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last.
But the whole scene passed off. He and the spirit were again upon their travels. Much they saw, and far they went, and many homes they visited, but always with a happy end. Suddenly, as they stood together in an open place, the bell struck.
Gong, 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 gong.
12.
Scrooge looked about him for the ghost, and saw it no more. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and, lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I have seen. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them.
Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know. Lead on, spirits.
They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them. But there they were in the heart of it, amongst the merchants.
The spirit stopped beside one little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
What has he done with the money?
I haven't heard. Company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me. That's all I know. The scene had changed, And now he almost touched a bare, uncurtained bed. A pale light, rising in the outer air, fell straight upon this bed, and on it, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of this unknown man.
Spirit, let me see some tenderness connected with a death, or this dark chamber. Spirit will be forever present to me.
The ghost conducted him to poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found his mother and the children seated around the fire.
Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were still as statues in one corner, and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughters were engaged in needlework, but surely they were very quiet.
The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face.
The color hurts my eyes. They're better now again. It makes them weak by candlelight. I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be near his time.
Past it, rather. I don't think he's walked a little slower than he used to these few last evenings, Mother.
I have known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, very fast indeed. But he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so. That was no trouble. And there's your father at the door.
She hurried out to meet him, and Bob came in. His tea was ready for him, and they all tried who should help it to it the most. Then the two young Cratchits got upon his knees and laid, each child, a little cheek against his face, as if they said, "Don't mind it, father. Don't be grieved."
Bob was very cheerful with them and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table and praised Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. You went today, then, Robert?
Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him I would walk there on a Sunday. My little child. My little child.
Spectre, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me what man that was with the covered face whom we saw lying dead.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him to a dismal, wretched, ruinous churchyard.
The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Am I that man who lay upon the bed? No, Spirit, oh, no, Spirit, hear me. I am not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Assure me that I yet may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. I will honor Christmas in my heart, and try to keep it all the year. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone.
Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost.
Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own, best and happiest of all. The time before him was his own, to make amends in. He was checked in his transports by the churches ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard.
Dong, 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 dong.
Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist, no night, clear, bright, stirring, golden day.
What's today?
Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in Sunday clothes.
What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, Christmas Day!
It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. Hello, my fine fellow.
Hello.
Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner?
I should hope I did.
An intelligent boy. A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
Walk,
No, I am in earnest. Go and buy it, and tell him to bring it here, that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown.
The boy was off like a shot.
I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't knows who send it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim.
Scrooge dressed himself all in his best, and at last got out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth, as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present, and, walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regarded every one with a delightful smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant, in a word, that 3 or 4 good-humored fellows said,
Good morning, sir. A Merry Christmas to you.
He was early at the office next morning, if he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late.
The clock struck 9. No Bob. A quarter past. No Bob. Bob was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time.
Bob's hat was off. Before he opened the door, he was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen, as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock.
Allo, what do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I am very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time.
You are? Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please. Now I tell you what, my friend, I am not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer, and therefore I'm about to raise your salary.
Bob trembled.
A Merry Christmas, Bob, said Scrooge as he clapped him on the back. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to the Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a good father. He became as good as a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but his own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. And it was always said of him that he may know how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us, and all of us.
And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone!
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Happy Holidays!
Bravo, bravo, bravo. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight at DCP Live. Thank you to my wonderful Hoogah-Troupe, who are now free to go off on winter break, unless they're coming to the winter break workshop tomorrow, in which they're going to come do some stage combat and some improvisation. If you'd like to support local arts education, please go to www.downstagecenter.org and go over to that button that says donate to the scholarship fund or the production fund, and help us continue to bring such great content to these students and to our community. Once again, Addie, we love you. We miss you.
We love you, Addie.
We hope you get better soon. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you for supporting local arts education. And thank you to Bobby P. Media for helping to make this possible. Thank you, Mr. Jake. Everybody,
Thank you, Ted.
have a wonderful evening. Happy holidays from our troop to yours. Mwah!